Hey everyone, welcome to Introduction to HTML and CSS. We are going to get started now, and today's event is going to be recorded and shared on YouTube and in the Carton Library, which is exclusive to Carton members. For today's event, we are going to get started in just a second, but for our housekeeping, we're going to ask that everybody please keep your mics off and keep that off throughout the event. You're welcome to keep your videos on, but if they become distracting at any point, we'll turn them off. And you're welcome to share your questions in the chat throughout today's event, and I'll share them with Lee as we go through. And today's event is hosted by Lee, aka Newbabyfly, any pronouns. Lee is a comics artist and self-taught web dev of 25 plus years since the spinning of GIF, GeoCities era of the early internet, here to help demystify the actually not so scary world of HTML and CSS to get you started on your website journey. I'll be in the background if you need any assistance. Take it away, Lee.
All right. Hello. As you said, yeah, websites are my passion. I love them so much. I have done them both professionally, but mostly personally, just because I love doing them. Um, Today, for this presentation, it is going to be kind of information dense because I'm going to try to condense a lot of information in a short amount of time. But I've tried to break it up in a way that's easy to follow and whatnot. I do not have a traditional slideshow for you, but I have a website. Since we are learning websites, we are going to learn from a website. So I'm going to share my screen with you now. All right, so here we have our website. I need to move this over. So we've got our website here. This is just a little overview of what we're going to cover. We're just going to talk about the tools, the structure of a website, HTML basics, CSS basics, and then, get to some best practices and tips. This entire presentation is available online. It will stay there. You can also download all the files from this to use as a reference. You can use it for practice. You can go mess around with the files. You can use all the code provided in this to start your own website as a base. So, and I'll have a link again to the download file at the end of this presentation. All right. So first off, what is HTML? What is CSS? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is a formatting language, not a programming language. It's still coding, but unlike a programming language where you're building an app or, an OS, an operating system or something, the syntax is a lot simpler than it is using coding. It's not like C++ or PHP, those types of things. You're not building a backend, you're building a front end. HTML just tells the browser how to build your site. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. It sets the style and the look of your website, and it's really powerful. It also keeps all the styling separate from your HTML, from your structure, and it has a lot of expansive control that you can take over it. So if you want to think of HTML, if your website is your house, HTML is your wood framework and your foundation. CSS is your paint, your curtains, your pretty throw pillows, your wall art. It's everything that makes it look pretty. So what are you going to need to get started? There's only two things. It's really simple. You need a text editor and a browser. You want to use a plain text editor, like Windows Notepad is perfectly fine to code in. I recommend a code editor. These are programs that are specifically geared towards reading code. So they have a lot of features like to make your code readable and to just speed up your coding process. Do not use rich text editors. So no Word, no Google Docs, no Open Office. Those are formatted for documents. They have different character encoding that's going to, if you try to upload an HTML file from a doc file that's built in a doc file, it's going to have a lot of really weird character encoding happens. Aside from that, all the spell and grammar check is going to drive you crazy while you build your website. So stick with a plain text editor or a code editor. I have some text editors listed here. There's a lot of free ones available. Typically, Notepad++ is the one I use, but there's other good options available. For this one, I am going to use Visual Studio Code right here. I'm choosing this one because this one has a more modern look and feel to it. It is also available for all operating systems, so it's a more accessible one. All right. So before we get into the actual tags and how to start it, we're going to talk about what makes up a website. We're going to look at different pieces and how they form together. So for this, I'm going to switch. I need to move this over. You need to move over. So we're going to switch to my code editor here. So this is my code editor. And as you can see, I got to figure out where to minimize this little chat window. There we go. So now here's our code editor. So you'll see this, like we have tags. This is a comment here. This does not display on your website. This is just for the coders and whoever's reading it. But there are two main parts to a website. We have the head section, which is all this right here. This head section does not display on your website. The head is just for sending instructions to the browser before it starts displaying the website. So it's going to tell it what to display in your window tab. It's going to give it some information for search engines. It will set the viewport, character set. It's also for linking needed files to display your website properly. So like you can see here, we have like a Google slide CSS file linked because we need that to display it. And we've also connected to Google Fonts, so we can use some fancier fonts that are not default to the browser. Scrolling down, the next part is the body. This is where all your content is going to be. It's all going to be in this section right here. And all of this information is like going to be encased in tags. So every tag will have a start and a finish. But those are the two main components to a website that you need to be aware of. So we're going to switch back to the slideshow here. And we're going to talk more about tags. So let's go to our next slide. So as we saw on the document, tags are going to have an open and a close. Your content is going to go in between. The elements are nestable, so you can keep nesting tags, inside tags, inside tags, inside tags, inside tags, just on and on and on. You can put them however deep you want. Like I got a list here. This list is inside a list. Note that these HTML tags are not case sensitive. The browser doesn't care if you're typing them in all uppercase or lowercase. They don't care. All right. But aside from tags, they can be given attributes. The attributes are going to go inside the opening tag. So some examples here, like an ID tag attribute, that's going to give that element a name. Class will assign it to a group. These two ones are typically used in CSS. You can also set size with an attribute like height and width. You can also set style, so you can apply CSS directly inside the tag if you want. I generally don't recommend doing this. I recommend doing that in your CSS instead, and we'll talk more about why later. But websites are also interactive. They embed files, they take you to other pages. So some files require a location. So href and src attributes, those are two where it's going to be expecting a location or file to point to afterwards. For the ID and class, those tags can be named whatever you want. Generally, you want to stick to alphanumeric characters, though. It's like just as a convention, it makes things easier. And you also want to name them things that make sense. So we're going to go back to the browser, and we're just going to kind of look at tags for a little bit and see how they work and see some of the different types. So I'm going to open up another file here. So here we got a web page again. So you see this doc type file. This is not technically a tag. This is just an alert to the browser to tell it, hey, we're about to start doing some HTML. The HTML tag, this is what starts your page. And you can see it has a language attribute that's just saying this website is in English. We've got our head here. So we got our head. The title, that's what shows up in your browser tab. That's the text that shows up there. And we just have like our meta character sets again. So we have the character set that we're using. Viewport is for kind of just detecting the size of the window, viewing the website. Description is for search engines. And you can look at these files from the download, kind of reference things, later on if you want to have a refresher. Then we got a body tag where our content starts. This tag is a div tag. This is going to be your bread and butter of HTML. You are going to use so many div tags. This is just an all-purpose container to put stuff in. Anything you want can be put in it. And we have this div, like this one has an ID. So to set an ID, you just put ID. Oh, well, don't move stuff around. So an ID equals, and then whatever value you want to put here. So these is examples, so I just named it examples. Class, I just said, this is a demo. It's just assigning it to a group that will be targeted later. And we set it to a width of 500 px. Class or divs elements, they can have more than one class. So this one has class 1 and class 2. If it has more than one class, you just separate it with a space. Then there's like formatting tags. We won't go completely over all of these, but like these are heading tags. So it's going to be like, your big titles that you would have in a Word doc. It's like the heading is like the first main title, and then H2 would be a smaller title, H3, and so on. P makes a paragraph. B makes it bold. I makes it italic. Some of these formatting tags are very intuitive and they're not really hard to think about. You can remember them easier. A UL, that will start a list. So that starts an unordered list. And then it has like a second tag to actually make your list items. And you can change this, for example, to, well, if I can, I'm a terrible typer. I'm going to be making lots of typos, so bear with me. But you could change this to an OL. And now it would be a numbered list. It would have numbers instead of bullet points. And all of this is nested in this div tag. There are some other tags that are called empty tags. These tags don't have a closing one. It's like they're just a tag by itself. Like this BR, it doesn't have a closing tag. It just makes a line break. HR will make a horizontal line divider. And there's other ones besides this, and we'll talk a little bit more about them as we go along. Now, to make things like we talked about paths, like with some tags require a path, like links and images are the main two examples. So to start a link, an A, that starts a link. ARHF equals, that tells it where it's pointed to. And it can be any file. It doesn't have to be an HTML file. It can be an image, it can be a PDF, it can be whatever, but it's just you're just going to put the name of the file inside these quotation marks. Close the opening tag, and this link, this text inside here, that is the text that is going to be displayed for your link. Links can also have a target called attribute. They will default to opening in the current window that you are in. Target attribute, like with this underscore blank, this will tell it, open this in a new tab. And there's other like targets that you can do to kind of control how your web page, the new destination is being opened. Images obviously need to know where the file is. So you got to put a path to tell it, where am I looking for this file? So we have a tag here. So it is in the folder images and the image name. So we're looking for image1 PNG. You can also give your images, you can size it directly. You can give it a width to size it down. And you can also give it alt text because accessibility is good. Try to get in the habit of using alt text on your images. Now, I want you to note here how the coding format is. You see, when I have a tag and I have an element nested, I tab it in. And then if there's another, like up in this UL, these ULs are nested in the OL, I tab it again. The browser does not care about this. All this empty space, these empty lines, your browser ignores this. This is for you. This is to make your code clean and easily readable by humans. So it is a good idea to just, as best practices, use this formatting as you're coding, clean up as you go, because future you will thank you. When your websites get more complicated and you have lots of things nested, you can easily see what's nested where. I can close that out now, actually. So these are just good things to do when you have code. Be kind to yourself, use proper formatting. All right, we will go back to our website now, or our slideshow, I should say. So next slide. Let's talk a little bit more about paths because there are several ways to set your paths. They will follow the same file structure as your laptop or your main desktop computer. But there are absolute paths and there are relative ones. An absolute path is just a full website URL. It's directing you we have to go to this website. So it's going to look for this domain, and then you include your path afterwards. And you can see it in my browser window. Like I'm working locally right now. So this is showing the full location of where this file is on my hard drive. This is going to become important later, but we'll talk about a little bit about it. Now, when you're doing your website, you can use absolute paths for every file, but you don't need to. You can use relative paths. Those will be based on the current location of the page being viewed. So the start point is right here. It's like and then you can use little conventions to say, I need to go up a folder, I need to go down a folder. This makes your code shorter and easier to read, because if you can have shorter code, that's good. Makes it, super long lines of code can get really hard to follow after a while. So relative paths are great for using for your internal hosted site. If it is hosted on your website, try to use a relative path instead. So let's see a little bit more about this. This just kind of explains how it works. So in this first image, say we're in slideshow. Your file is also in slideshow. You just need the file name. That's all the path. It's in the same folder that we are currently in. So what if it's in a folder down? You just put the folder name in front of it and then the file name. So what if we want to go up a folder? Like we want to go, our file is in practice files. So if you put a dot dot slash, what it's going to do, it's going to go up to workshop, and then it's going to look in practice files, because we had to go up one folder, look in this folder, and then the file name. There is one more path to cover. This one can be a little tricky, so it gets its own slide. Starting a path with a forward slash and nothing else is going to be different based on if you're viewing it locally or on your website. This takes you to your top level directory. So right now, there should be an image here, but we're just seeing the alt text because I'm viewing this on my desktop. This path is looking in d.missing. That's not where my image is. Since we are viewing this locally, the full path is this right here. But let's see, this is going to be the exact same path. Let's look at this page live on my website. Oh, that is not the right link. That's there. This is that same file path to display this image on my website. Now it is looking in the default folder, the root folder of my website host. So it's displaying. The path is, there's my website and the file name. So if you have a file that isn't loading properly for some reason, check to make sure if you've used the forward path or started it with a dot dot first. Just wanted to kind of point this out because this is an easy way that can trip you up when you're trying to find your files. All right. So let's practice a little bit. Let's put all this together, and we're going to build like a very basic little landing page that we're going to use later for CSS. Alrighty, so we're going to go back to our code editor. We can close out demo tags. I don't need to save that. So we are going to open, I've got some practice files up here, so I'm going to open an empty HTML file. Before we get started, a quick note. For your landing page on your website, it has to be titled index.html. When a web browser goes to a domain name, the file that it's going to open first is index.html. If you do not have an index, it's going to just open, it's just going to spit out all the file folder contents. It's just going to display everything that's in that folder rather than a web page. And that depends on if your web host even allows you to see folder content. So it might just error out. So make sure your first page is called index. So let's just see HTML in action. And I'm going to use a few tags here that you haven't seen before because there's more than the ones that we talked about before. The first thing, we're just going to put in a div. We're going to give this an ID of wrapper because this is just going to be a wrapper that controls all our content. Websites usually have a header section, so we're going to use this tag header to designate this is the little display header of our website. We are going to, let's see, then we are going to use an h1 tag to give it. Oh,
we
is
have a
it
note that
showing?
says the practice file in the slides does not work, in case that's
Okay,
relevant.
yeah, it's the file. Okay, it's it will be. Yeah, because actually, let me. But yeah, it's just a blank. Let's see. I will copy that real quick. If I can type right. I told you my typing is atrocious for as much as I've been doing this.
You're in good company. I always typing is just chaotic for me too.
All right, so yeah, it's going to be right here. What? It's showing the index. It's an index, okay, because I capitalized it. Maybe it's usually that shouldn't matter. But yeah, I can copy this in. How do I go back to the Zoom thing? All right, I can get the thing up. But yeah, it's just like if you go to this website right here, index.html, and it just shows a blank page right now. You'll be able to download this later. So we got a header. We're going to indent because we're in the header, H1, and we're going to give this an ID of title. We're going to say, we're going to make this a link because usually you have a link that will always go back to your home page. So link with index.html, my website. It's a singular. Close out to H1. And you'll see like as this code editor, it is automatically doing some indents for you. We're going to put in a new class. We're going to make a unordered list. I like to put menus and lists. Let's give this a name. Let's give this a class of main menu. Ah, I'm going to use my little cheat sheet here. I got a little cheat sheet, so I'm going to just copy and paste some things. So we're just going to copy this over a few times. So to make a menu, we'll just make more links. So we'll just use, so we'll make portfolio, and we'll change these links out later. We'll say, um, this is what I'm gonna do. So we'll say links, and then we'll do a contact. For the contact one, we're going to make this an email contact list. So we're going to do something a little different for this. So we're going to put mail to, and then we're going to insert an email address. Close out this tags while we're thinking about it. So what a mail to in a link will do, this is going to prompt the browser to open up and start a new email, so that's going to depend on your default of whatever your system is. So it might open Gmail, it might open Outlook, but it's going to say, hey, I want to send an email to this person. So it's just going to try to open that up so you can do it. I'm going to leave the header there. So we're going to close that out. That's all right. Then we're going to make some more div containers. So I'm going to do a little bit more copy pasting here just to because we are kind of short on time. Well, it's like we have limited amount of time, I should say. So we're going to have like a content. We're going to have a little intro paragraph. I have got, we're just going to copy some lorem ipsum just to have some filler text. Let's close that out. Then we are going to make a couple little, all right. Yeah, some of these are different. So I'm just going to make some of these. We're going to make like a little about me section. I know I'm doing a lot of copy pasting here. So, but again, you kind of get the idea of how this is like working and getting laid out. So we have like little subsections. We're calling the subsections because these little sections are going to be like little smaller sections and we're going to line them up later. And so, and you can see like when it's there, I didn't close something out properly. So there's that. So in the last little bit, we're going to make a little tiny gallery. So So this one, we got all our tags closed out. God, my type is terrible. I'm so sorry. So sorry you have to watch this. But yeah, as you see in the tidy gallery, we just got like some images. Let's make these have these linked to the thumbs because I didn't get my cheat sheet quite right. So we'll get to some of those items later. So we're putting like classes and names with things as we go along. Let me just double check that I got content. And then at the end, we'll just make a footer file and we'll just put like copyright info in. Oops. Okay, I got, I think we need one more. I might have missed with this copy pasting, but anyway. So why don't we take a look at this real quick? So we are going to open this in my, all right, we're going to view this. Open this in Firefox, please. All right. Well, we have a website. It doesn't look like much though right now. This does not look very pretty. So, but this is what a website will view. This is how your browser sees your website. This is without any style. Honestly, this is what your website should kind of look about. I have one missing thing in there I want to get rid of. You need to go away. It's gonna bother me. Yeah, let's get rid of that. We'll talk about that later. Sorry. I thought I was fully prepared. Okay. But yes, this is what your website looks like. You can see the flow still works well and everything. It's readable. It's just not pretty. And you can see there is some spacing and formatting that's already happening. That is because your browser with certain tags, it's going to automatically default or apply by default some spacing. Like it knows a header is supposed to be big. It knows an unordered list is supposed to have bullet points and be formed in a list, and so on and so forth. And these values, you can work with them when you work with CSS, or you can just get rid of them all and start from scratch. It's up to you. So you can do both. So let's go back to our slideshow, and we're going to talk about CSS some more. Let's see. All right. So CSS, as we said, it separates your style from your form. We had our form just in our skeleton website that we saw there, but how does CSS work? It's going to select an HTML tag or an ID or class value, and it's going to apply properties to those. So, and there are tons of HTML things, but it's going to select one of those things. And yeah, it's like, I need to apply these things to body. I need to apply these things to links and so on and so forth. CSS is read from top to bottom. So it's like whatever it reads first gets applied first, and then it goes down. And this is going to be important later, and we'll talk about why. So in like the order of priority about what it applies first, it is going to design inline styles. So that is like on the HTML, if you put inside the HTML tag a style attribute and put CSS in there, that is going to overrule anything in your style sheet. I generally don't recommend putting style directly in your HTML tags because you like to keep it separate. It keeps things neater when you keep it separate in a CSS file. ID selectors take the next highest priority, so it's going to look for ID classes first to apply. And then it will apply class selectors. If there is a conflict, it's like if in the ID or if a value, a property is assigned to a class and they're both classes, it's going to use the one that is at the bottom of your CSS file. Which class, like if we set a width of 300 for body, but then later down you have like body equals 500, it's going to use the 500 pixels rather than the one that's all the way at the top of your file. Some properties can also be inherited. So this is mostly for font styles. So like things like font styles, the type of font, text, their font color, and related properties. If you set font style in body, everything inside body is going to have those same font styles unless you tell it otherwise. So it's great because it helps keep your website a nice, clean, consistent look all the way through. That's awesome. Love that. Makes things easier so you don't have to sit there and set your font for every single nested property. All right. Now with property types, this is the thing that can be a little intimidating. There are more property types than I can teach you in this. There are more than you can memorize, and it's okay. Nobody expects you to learn every single CSS property. There is just too many. I have been doing this probably 28 years, and I still don't have all of them memorized. So do not worry about that. Don't be afraid to look things up. You're going to need to all the time. I do it all the time. I have some resources here linked. So W3 Schools is a great one. Some people prefer the MDM, and there's other resources besides these. So if there's something you think you should be able to, a property you think you should be able to assign and do in CSS, you probably can, and you just need to look it up. All right. So how does the coding format work? So for an HTML tag, all you need to do for your CSS file is just type the name of the tag with nothing in front of it. So this right here on this image, this first one, it's targeting the body HTML tag. To target a value, you start it with the hashtag, and then you just put in whatever ID value you have assigned in the HTML. And it will have like, this will be whatever the property you're assigning to it, and then you put the value. What is that? What is that property doing to it? Is it giving it a margin or whatever? So class is going to have, that's going to work the same. You just start it with the period, and then you put your class name that you have assigned in the HTML. Each value, you can have more than these properties. These can go on and on and on, and you just separate each one with a semicolon. An important thing to note is that a class value cannot start with a number. Why it can't start with a number, I don't really remember at this point, but just know if it starts with a number, the HTML, it is not going to be applied to it. So, with classes, start with alpha, just, your standard alphabet ones. All right, let's practice. Let's decorate all the things. And again, I can't teach you all the tags, so I'm just going to start applying CSS to our test page that we just kind of built. And I'm going to kind of explain things as I go, and you can start getting an idea of how it works so that you can get started. Alrighty, let me switch over to my code editor and make sure I don't need that one anymore. So the first thing we need to do, we need to add an HTML file to this. We don't have a CSS file here. So I'm just using my little cheat sheet here. So it's not in there. Rude. I did not prepare my cheat sheets quite enough. This is the wrong cheat sheet, that's why. There we go. There's my little copy paste cheat sheet. All right, so we're just going to put this under meta tags. And like this link tag, it's like images, it's another empty tag, but it's going to say, hey, here's our style sheet. Relative just says, this is the style sheet. It is text CSS. It is for all media. So now we can start building our styles. So let's pull up our empty style sheet. This is a CSS comment. I am using, these are great to just use. These are not read, these are not applied, these are just for you again. They're great for kind of like breaking up your CSS sheet and make notes for yourself to know this is what's happening here. So right now we only have one. I am targeting the body and I am setting the font. So the font is 18 point. That is the size. This is the line height. The font is Arial and it's sans serif. And you can also write this just like font family. There's a lot of different ways to apply tags, and you can even condense them. It's like, rather than doing like font family, font, thing. Like you can do this, and then you could have all sorts of individual font pricings you could have, but that makes a lot of code. So a lot of the tags properties, you can just condense in one. We can just put it all in one line. So that's what we're going to do. So let's give this a background color. Let's get rid of background. We're just going to set a background color. And this little pop-up up here is annoying. Uh, right up the cheat sheet. So I just got some. Now for colors, you can use a color name. I like to use the hexadecimal codes. You can also use RGB codes, but you can use, it's like if we just put red, that will work too. But I generally like to stick to there. So we're going to put a background. Let's set a width of like 80% for our page. And let's just take a look and see what happens to our test page. I need to go back. Where's my test page again? All right, there we go. Let me things up. Okay. For now. All right. So it's already starting to look a little better. You see the font has changed, the background image has changed, and we changed the width, but you can't really tell. Right now, all these divs, they are all invisible boxes. So we can't really see the borders of our boxes. So this is like a little trick I'm going to show you. What we're going to do right now, and this is partially just to show you, to make it more visually clear what the CSS is doing. But this is also great for troubleshooting when you're lining things up so you can see visually what all the things are doing when. So we're just going to put a border around this. We're going to put a border, 1px, going to be a solid border, and we're going to make it a color red. And this is going to be applied to all div borders. All right, we can see we're doing better. Now we can see all our boxes. That's pretty great. That makes things a lot easier. So let's center this. So we're going to set a margin for it. So we're going to set margin. We're going to start with a 0. 0, we're going to have two attributes. The first one that we're going to put in this is saying the margin of the body, top and bottom is 0. Then we're going to put auto. Is directed at the sides, the left and right. And it's just like it's going to automatically calculate the sides, the margins that it needs to have on back and bottom. There, now it's centered. Easy way to center it. So let's get back into it. Let's see, maybe we want to add a background image. And we could just do background image for one, or we could just, since we can condense file tags, let's just add it here. Background image is going to need a URL. So we're going to say images, and then it's going to need a destination. Images. So you can see my code editor is helpfully showing me files that are in there. All right. Now we got a background. And it scrolls with there. Maybe we don't want it to scroll because it's just going to automatically repeat. Let's make it say no repeat. Supposed to put no repeat now. So now when it ends, it just ends. We can also set background size. We're going to say contain, make it fit inside the window without cropping. So that size is the down. We can also put background attachment. We're going to say fixed. This makes it not scroll. Okay. Now it doesn't move. See, there's a lot of things you can do with HTML. But with this background, let's put a background color for our wrapper. So we're going to target, and we'll just put this down in content styles. So we're going to target our wrapper style. We're going to give it a background of white. So it's not showing through our content. All right. Why aren't you doing that? See, I'm already messing something up.
Lee, we actually have a question. It says,
Yes.
I was curious how the main BG.jpg was going to intersect with the color set for the background. Does the hex color fill in the white of the JPG?
Yes. So if your background, if like with this if your background with this one, if your background does not fill up, if there's empty space where the background does not fill up your background, it will fill in this color instead. Well, so that's a very good question. Yes.
Thanks, Lee.
Hmm. All right. What are you? Okay. Wow. Gonna be. Oh, that's what I'm putting ID. That's what I'm doing. So we're targeting the wrapper. All right. There. Now our internal content has, we can see it a little without the background messing things up. So let's stop the menu a little bit. So let's target a link. Let's do some link style. So actually just like before that, let's just set some general link colors. So it's a HTML tag, so it just needs links. So um, typing while talking. Now the color tag, if it's just color by itself, that is automatically going to target text. So let me just grab the color. Why are you? I didn't need all of that. I just wanted this. And get to close that out. And we can also get rid of, we can do text decor, and that'll get rid of the underline. And we can also change the hover cover. So we can say A and then use a pseudo class hover. So this is only going to be applied when the mouse is hovering over it. All right, let's take a look again. So now our links are red. It doesn't have an underline. And you see, even though we didn't put underline in the hover, it's inheriting that lack of an underline, that text decoration none from the link thing, from the link ones. So it's like you don't have to repeat every single property. They'll just pass down to the next one. Let's make these link folders here. Let's make them more boxes. So first of all, like I said, I like to use list to do like when things need to be lined up in a nice neat row. I like to do those, just in list because that's my preference. You don't have to do it that way. First, let's get rid of these bullets. So we're going to say list style type, and we're going to set it to none. We're going to get rid of the margin to 0. We're going to set the padding to 0. We're going to set that when the actual link. All right, so that's a little better. Now we're going to set our menu styles. The menu's links we want to look a little bit different. So we're going to target those a little more precisely than just with a generic link thing. So we're going to target our main menu, and then we're going to say A. Now this is specifically targeting the link that is inside main menu. We're going to set the display to block. Keep an eye on time too. How are we doing? So gonna use my little cheat sheet a little bit. All right. So we're gonna copy this all over just so we can keep ahead of time. All right, well, what I've done here, I have set it to display as a block. So instead of just like automatically the little link, just automatically being the size of the text, it's going to display it as a box instead. We set the width to 100%, height 50%. We put a border around it. We change the text color to white, and we change the background color. So what does that look like now? I didn't hit save. All right. So let's try to center this text. So I'm going to say text align center. And then we can also set line height, and it's 50 pixels tall. So we'll just set that 50 pixels. And now our text is sitting in this. And now notice this entire line is now your link. So you've made some buttons. Cool. All right. Now you'll notice with a lot of these, it's like all of our text is stuck right up there along the edges of our boxes. There's some padding on the top and bottom that's been automatically applied by your browser just from the default character natures of the HTML tags. But we're going to want to control this too. But before we do that, we're going to go back to the slideshow and we're going to talk about how the web size or your browser sizes your box. All right, so box sizing, how it is calculated. We have like three parts. We have a margin that is outside your box, the padding is inside your box, and you got a border. How the browser calculates it is, oh, I missed a thing. But it's going to, I changed something in my thing and I missed, okay, there it is. That's what I'm looking for. So it's going to add the width of your box. So if it's, that should be 300. So if it's 300 pixels, then it's going to add the padding. Then it's going to add the border. And that is your box size. That is the default. So 300 pixels is not actually 300 pixels. It's 300 pixels plus your margin plus your border. Margins are not included in that final box size. So we can fix this in CSS. This will save you a lot of headache. There's an easy trick that we can change to make sure when you set your box as 300 pixels, it's 300 pixels no matter what the padding is. So we're going to go all the way up to the top because this is going to be a global style. We're going to use an asterisk. This is a general purpose. Apply this to everything. We're going to use box size sizing, and we're going to say border box. This says the actual size of the box is the size I set it as. Anything, and then the padding stays inside the border of the box. It doesn't expand your box. And if we want to get rid of all those default values, and this is generally what I like to do because it gives me better control over the spacing and things, I prefer just to get rid of all those defaults too. So I usually just get rid of that on everything so I can say exactly how much I want my paddings and spacings on every single element. But this is up to you. You don't have to do it. You can work with those defaults if you want. All right, so I think this little top pop-up is a little annoying. Go away. All right, so let's see what that did. All right, so now our padding and spacing has all gone, but when we set a thing at 300px, it's going to be 300px. So let's go talk about some margins and paddings. Let's target our, what did I name that? So we get our wrapper. Let's target our content class. So we're going to, let's talk about applying margins. So we're going to say, I swear I can type. So we're going to set our margin, we're going to set some padding on these, 20px. So that is what this does. This is going to put a padding of 20px's across the entire, every single side, top, bottom, left, right. You can target specific sides. So if we just want padding top, we can just write padding top. And that's just, yeah, you'll see that just gives it a little bit of padding up there rather than on, you know, if you want, and but you can, rather than doing like a padding top and a padding bottom, you can do this all on one line too. Rather than doing it that way, you can put all values on one line. So it's like, okay, we want 20 on top. It's going to go in this order. So it's going to go top. So we're going to put 10 on the right side. Make sure I'm saying my direction side. 20 on the bottom, and then 10 on the left. So it'll say top, right, bottom, left. So you can do it all that way instead. Let's add a little bit more padding to some of these places. So and we're going to apply this padding to multiple different classes rather than just repeat it. So we're going to apply it to We're going to apply it to intro, and we're going to apply it to subsections, or sub item is what I wanted to do. So you can target this style. Now it's targeting multiple classes. You just put a comma and then do your next one. And now it's going to apply all. I didn't save, did I? Okay. I bet I did something dumb. You intro button. What is it? Oh, sorry. This is
While you're
part of
doing
coding.
that,
You are always. Hmm?
while you're doing that, we also have another question that says, is it because it
Yes.
says padding top rather than just padding?
Yes. Thank you. This is a lot of what coding is. You are exactly right. This is a
Mm.
lot of times, this is exactly what coding will get you. Your brain will just forget something and you just left out a semicolon, you left out a bracket, you left didn't close a tag properly. You will be doing this so much. And obviously, like I said, I'm doing that a lot. There. Now we have some nice padding. And we can apply this to our header as well if we wanted. So let's just add that to our header as well. So just all right. So this is getting a lot better already. So look at our little gallery here. But this is, this isn't exactly how we want our entire website to be. We want it to look a little nicer. Things, especially on desktop, things should line up. So we want to start lining things up. Let's talk about how we do that. We are going to talk about Flexbox. This is very fun and very frustrating, but Flexbox is awesome. You just got to be a little patient with it sometimes. So, oh yeah, that's something I was going to talk about first, just with image sizes. Let me before we get to Flexbox. Oh. So you'll see image behavior, default image behavior. The size that it displays at is going to default to its actual size. It will break out of your div containers if you don't do anything with it. Now you can see this image is, it doesn't care that this box isn't big enough for it. It's going to do what it's going to do. It's going to display full size. So there are options that you can do to fix that. You can either physically resize your image to be smaller. You can change the width directly in the HTML tag, or you can use CSS to resize it. Note when using absolute units like pixels, that image is going to say whatever size you set it as, whether you're viewing it on desktop or mobile. So using it in CSS is a lot of times a better way to go about it. So what we can do, an easy way, just to make sure, this isn't always the ideal solution, but it's a good way just to make sure your images don't break containment. That is the wrong bracket. So we're going to say, we're going to target the image tag itself. We're going to set the width to 100%. Use the right thing. And we're going to set the height to auto, because that way it'll keep the original image proportions. All right, so let's see what that does when we go back to our portfolio. All right, well, the images, because they always display on their own line, unless you tell it otherwise, it's going to fill up this entire div container. And that happens with our little thumbnail images back here. But on the plus side, this will not break outside of your div boxes. It will not mess up your other layers when things are lined up. But for right now, since we already have our images sized down more or less to what we want, we're going to turn this into a class that we can apply to boxes later. So we're just going to call this imFit. And then when we want to make sure an image, especially like if you're like displaying your artwork and it's a bigger size image, you can just apply the class imFit to the div box, and it will make sure it stays within the confines of that box. And hit save. So yeah, now they're back to their usual sizes. For this profile pic, let's kind of target that a little bit. This is kind of goes in with how things line up. This is one case, if you have an individual image that is all by itself and it's not like, just a little thing, there is a way to line it up. And this is like kind of the one things where I say, yeah, you should put it directly in the HTML. So we're going to set the width to 100px. And then we're going to set the align. We're going to tell it align equals left. And that's going to tell it, put this to the left and the text will wrap around it. Yeah. And then if we want to target that image a little more specifically, we can do that in the CSS. So let's go down to the content style. So it's in, what section was it in? So we're just going to say we're going to target about sub item. We can add a little bit of padding. Let's say 10px. Let's kind of break it away. Actually, we want a margin here. And we want to target the image in. All right, so that creates a little bit of space around the image in your text. But now we want to line up the gallery, our little bitty gallery here. So now we are going to talk about Flexbox. We're going to go back up to our global styles, get rid of that. We're going to make a new class called Flex. We are going to tell it display Flex. That's going to be it for right now. Now we're going to go into our index, or back into our index file, our HTML. So here's our tiny gallery. We're just going to add Flex class to it. And watch what happens with this. Boom, you're done. You think you're not done yet. This is all lined up. It automatically does it. But watch what happens when we size down this window. We're going to just take this window and we're going to squish it. It is lining our things up, and it is staying lined up. It is not going to unline those things. So we need to give Flexbox a little more instruction. So back in our CSS, once I get there, the pop-up is so that's the wrong file. I'm looking at this one. Okay, so we're going to tell it flex wrap, and we're going to tell it wrap. What flex wrap does, it says if there's not enough room on this row for the element and it starts overflowing, it's going to take what doesn't fit and automatically bump it down to a new row. So right now there's room. And now it's all lined up nice and neat, and it stays in its respective box. All right, so now let's talk a little bit. Let's go back to our slide and talk a little bit more about Flexbox. So as you see, Flexbox will automatically adapt to different screen sizes. It's like I'm going to try and fit as many items as I can into one row. And with the Flex wrap, if there's not enough room, I'm going to bump it down to the next row. It has a lot of precise controls that you can use this. These are just the very basic ones. But Flexbox can even rearrange the order of those items inside its container into whatever you want. It can it has a lot of things. We're not going to go over all of them, but I wanted to make sure you know how to line things up. A little bit more about it. So here's just some examples, like the Flex wrap, that controls that, that's what makes it wrap. Justify content will control how the extra space is handled around the element. So if back in our here, if we put justify content and space between. Uh, so now it spaces them evenly out amongst the div. Awesome. This is pretty sweet. Flex direction, for example, that can also change the order of it. And there's a lot more to this. I have a little link down here. Flexbox Froggy is a resource that is just about learning Flexbox. So that is a great resource to learn more about it. And oh yeah, and again with Flexbox, because all of HTML is infinitely nestable, you can nest a Flexbox inside a Flexbox. So obviously we have these two main elements, these little boxes here, those are lined up. And then we have this little list that's also in its own Flexbox, and it's lining them up and staying inside this element here. This image right here, because Flexbox will line up any item inside. So this image, this isn't even in the unordered list that we have here. This is a list item. This is a list item. This image is just hanging out in the unordered list by itself without being in a list item tag, but it's still lining up nice because that's what Flexbox does. Take every element in this box and line it up. All right. So this is going to, let's go back to our website before I get to that slide. Now, obviously for like the web types to make it more readable, we want to have this menu lined up. We don't want our menu to be like this. But I want to make a point here is that right now, this website is perfectly mobile friendly. This is about how your website should look on mobile. Everybody's got a mobile phone on your hand. So many people will view websites mobile first and not actually get on the web from their desktop anymore. So it is very important to make your website mobile friendly. And that's why I haven't lined up these two sections. I haven't lined up the menu because it is completely mobile friendly. And you can actually check to see how your website looks in mobile with the in-browser tools. So if we go right click on your browser, there's usually an inspect. And then there'll be like this button. This is on Firefox. So I want to see how this looks on mobile. And it will show you how it looks on a mobile device. Now, obviously, we want to do a lot of cleanup. We want to make it prettier, but everything is stacked nicely. The gallery, we could probably size these images down a little bit for, on mobile. But other than that, it looks pretty good. So that's why, just keep things stacked until you're ready. How do we adjust this website to make it look for, better on desktop though? So we're going to talk about that. Let's go back to our slideshow. In terms of like sizing, real quick, we're going to talk about the media tag here, but when making your website responsive, percentages are based on the size of the browser window. So it will adapt, it will stretch, percentages will stretch and shrink your boxes in accordance to what's viewing it right now. Pixels do not do that. They are always going to be 300 px. So when you're doing your boxes, try to use percentages rather than hard unit sizes like pixels. Sometimes you do need to use pixels, and that's fine. But whenever possible, use flexible, like relative units of measurement. So how do we tell this website we're viewing it on the website? We want to do it. So we are going to use this media tag. We're going to go all the way down to our bottom thing. Because like we said, CSS is read top to bottom. So we are going to I'm going to scroll down here. Keep switching to the wrong file. Because I have a lot of, where's my cheat sheet? That's what I was looking for. All right, we're going to grab this tag right here. We're going to put this all the way at the bottom of our file. So what is this? This is an @media tag. This is saying, this is going to tell your browser, it's going to, who's viewing it? What size is it? If to say only screens and the minimum width is this, only display this CSS if the minimum width is greater than is this. So this is only going to display if the website, the viewer, sorry, I'm kind of fumbling over my words a little bit. It is only going to display the CSS if the window of the website is over 680 pixels. So this is like setting a breakpoint. We're just going to set one so that it says when it is over this width, display this. So we are going to, what was I going to do now? Let's see. Put that in there. So I'm going to yoink it from this one. I'm yoinking it from a different file. So we're gonna change some of our things. I'm gonna steal this from the slideshow. Put it in the right place.
We have somebody
So
in the chat sharing also that responsive design mode view is also accessible through the drop-down menu under more tools and by command Control
mhm,
plus Shift plus M in Firefox.
yes, thank you. Yeah, because depend of where it is, it's like almost all browsers have an inspect tool. The exact where and the dev tools can be a little different depending on what browser you use. All right, so let me go back up to, do we set correct? So we're gonna move some things around just a little bit, so bear with me. So we're gonna put, so if we say for a mobile, we'll make this with 95%. And then down here, we're gonna make it 35%. Oh, and this is something I'd mentioned, like when I talked about like, the hierarchy and how CSS is applied top to bottom. Even if this wasn't targeting a screen size is over than this mount, if I put this wrapper outside of this width is going to be 85%, even though it says 95%. It's going to use this one, not this one. But all the other elements, like the background, is still going to be white. Those values won't change. It will only override whatever properties you give it. All right, so let's take a look at it again. All right, so now we're on desktop. I didn't fix something. So, I did my mind. No, that's because this is is applied with width, so it needs to stay with the wrapper. Auto margins don't work if it doesn't have a width already on it. But this is website design for you. So it's like a lot of like sometimes it's just play with things. So now, all right, so it's like 85%. If we view it on mobile though, there's a lot less border around on the edges of it. So always design with mobile in mind first. Now, with the Flexbox, we can go, since we already have our Flexbox kind of lined up for our main menu, we can go up here and we can just add Flex. And let's see. It still looks a little ugly, so we're going to have to sit there and kind of set some things back down in our style here. So we're going to say we're going to target our main menu links. We're going to change the width. We're going to say, let's make them 25%, 25%. That's where I can type. Let's see. Okay. Miss some things. So I spent all weekend like practicing, but that's, sometimes practicing just isn't enough. So, yeah. But either way, you can see how things are like lined up properly, are getting lined up. Oh, okay. So here's what's happening here. We added flex to main menu. The flex is trying to align the LI containers, not the links, because these are the items in here. So we need to change this a little bit. I'm going to have this target LI instead. There, now it's fixed. It's all lined up nice. Our links are still blocks, and it all lines up nicely. And if we'll have to kind of fix it a little bit. Let's just so we'll just put this up here just to make sure we have our width set. Check it again in mobile. So now it lines up nicely. So we have a lot of basics now. We've got a lot. We know how to add images. We know how to add tags. We know how to apply CSS. And we can have like our borders to help us see things that are going on. We know how to make it a little bit mobile responsive. So we're just going to talk about a few more things before we take some questions. So some troubleshooting tips. You already watched me mess up a little bit. The most common errors when coding CSS and HTML, you didn't close a tag. You missed a quote, a semicolon, or a colon somewhere. You made a spelling mistake. This is a universal pain all coders have felt across the dawn of time since people started programming. You are going to spend a lot of time looking for that misspelled word or that missing colon or bracket. It's okay. Everybody does it. Do not feel bad. The important thing is to be kind to yourself. You are learning a new skill, and anybody can learn HTML. Anybody can do it. And again, like the browsers, there's lots of tools available. Your code editor has a lot of features that will help you find errors. It will also, like as we showed here when we were looking at mobile, the inspect file, this can also be a great troubleshooting tip. So with this inspect right here, you can just hover over anything. It will jump you to the HTML tag that's using it. It will show you what CSS is being applied. It'll like strike out ones. Well, this is being applied further down, so we're not using this one from that because it has margin set elsewhere. But it can show you a lot of different things. So it's like if you really get stuck and you don't know what's going on, pull it up in your browser, use the inspect tools. It is really, really helpful. Work smarter, not harder, that sort of thing. Use the tools available to help you get things done. All right. We already talked, I tried to kind of explain like some best practices as we went along. So the main things is remember, keep your code neat, clean it up as you go, keep all those indents, keep your code easily readable as you go along. Design for mobile first, and also just make sure your files are well organized. A well-organized files makes it easy to do. And even with me, it's like I had my files organized, but I was still kind of fumbling a little bit here and there. So and another good thing to first, when you're starting your website, plan it out first. Plan it out before you start coding. Draw a little grid boxes, make some graphics. You can make a little just a mock website graphic in like Photoshop or whatever your preferred things. Just draw it out, make a grid, because if you have a structure planned out first, it will make your code flow easier rather than just YOLOing it the entire way through. It will also tell you, this is what I want to do. So this is what I need to look up. I need to look up how to do this to make it work the way I want it to look. So it'll give you an idea of what you need to Google in order to do the things that you need to do. And here's just a list of resources. So to overview. So you got a bunch of tutorials and guides. Here's some of the code editors again. We didn't go up about uploading clients, but FTP clients are something that you will need to upload it to your host if you don't do it directly from your host file browser. So I have a couple listed here. And here's just like a couple places where you can get hosting. Obviously, we don't have time to talk about acquiring domains and actually navigating, putting a site live on the web, but everything you can be learned here can be great. Like if you set up on Comic Fury, you can use this knowledge and you can make your own custom style sheets now. for your Comic Fury site, which is great. You know how those styles, those templates are not going to look quite so scary anymore, hopefully. And that's it. We have made it to the end. I know I dumped a whole lot of information on you in a short period of time. I hope you learned something. I hope this demystified it a little bit for you. And again, this website will be online forever for you to go over and review and look through. And I also have this link here. I'm going to drop this in chat, but this is where you can download the entire site. So let me, well, I'm in screen sharing mode still. So I don't like Zoom. I hid my box somewhere.
I'm
Where's
in
chat? Okay.
sentiment.
Yeah. All right, here. There is the link. That is the share link. This is through my sync files. And I'm going to close out this presentation, the screen share for right now, and we have some time. We got about 10 minutes, so we got questions, we can take questions.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for that, Lee. I feel like there was a lot of comments saying, thank you for demystifying this and making it
Mhm.
look easy,
Yeah,
and it was really great to see. We did
awesome.
have a question that says, how do I check my code will look on both mobile and desktop?
Um, you either have to transfer, honestly, it's really hard to check your code on mobile. Generally, you would prefer it's best to work on desktop because it's just hard to. It's like you can transfer the files over into your file system on your mobile, but honestly, I would really just use those in-browser tools to use that inspect and view it, the mobile preview from your browser. The other way, if you already have hosting and you know how to upload files, you can just upload it to your website, and then you can pull up the URL address where you uploaded it, and you can view it through your phone that way. And those are the main two things, because it's like mobiles don't really make it very easy to look at code from a phone. And honestly, you're going to need a lot more room. It's got a lot of text. It's hard to read that on a phone, at least for me personally.
We have somebody in the chat saying dev tools can emulate phones, and I don't know anything about that, so I'm going to turn that over to you.
Honestly, I haven't used that a whole lot myself either. So I haven't like tested with a lot of phones. That is something I will have to look up. And if I find some resources and learn a little bit more, I can add that to the slideshow presentation later. But right now, I don't have a very good answer for it.
That's totally valid. Everybody feel free to share any final questions that you have for Lee. I feel like we got a lot of them, a lot of great ones throughout the event. So I'm guessing there probably aren't as many right now. But I think that's also a testament to how great you presented everything. It
I'm
was really
glad.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very happy for that. I was nervous. It's like I said at the beginning. I'm very confident in my HTML skills. I'm not confident in my public speaking.
Honestly, I was thinking about that throughout, and I was like, "You're doing fantastic." There was no
Mhm.
need for worry. You were great.
All right, excellent.
Yeah. We have somebody saying this has been so helpful. I wish all my college professors could teach this well. That's a
Aw,
great
thank you.
point. Yeah, a comment saying get the gist of how everything works now. Lots of thanks throughout the comments as well. Um, just want to mention for anybody who is watching this on YouTube or in the Carton Library, you can find the slides for today's event at schism.org. And you can find Lee's comic at thatsameone.org. Oh, sorry, I linked the same thing twice. So that first
Yeah,
link
well,
for the slides
it's
should be,
oh yeah,
go
don't
ahead.
worry. It's a little tricky because I own schism.org and schism.inc. The presentation
Gotcha.
is on schism.inc. My comic is .org. So
There we go.
I,
Thank you.
I
I
have
knew
I
I was
have a
going to
lot
mess
of
that up.
websites.
I can see why it looks so
Yeah,
easy to do it when you
yeah.
do it. That's amazing.
Oh yeah. I used to manage them for like my work. So there's like 3 or 4 other websites that I kind of help maintain at this point. So
Nice. We have somebody sharing in the chat as well. There's a how to pretend to be a phone in Firefox. There's a link to
awesome.
that in there, and how to pretend to be a phone in Chrome. And the first one is Firefox-source-docs on .mozilla.org. And then there's some other stuff that I'm sorry, I can't read all of it. But the next one is developer.chrome.com.
All right. Excellent. Thank you for those links. That's great.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you again. If we don't have any
And
other final questions, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording in about 30 seconds. So now's your last chance to get questions in for everybody, y'all.
And we ended up right on time. So
We did. You did great.
I was worried I was going to go over a little bit, but perfect.
Did fantastic. And honestly, it was so great that I was like, I'm willing to stay late. This is fun.
Mhm. Yeah, like CSS by itself, I could talk for days about that. I
Yes.
could talk for days about a lot of these, things related to website, but we're trying to condense it down for just to get you started.
Hell yeah. All right. Looks like we are good for the day. And so I'm going to go ahead and end the recording with a final thanks again to Lee for your wonderful presentation.
So happy to help out and so glad to see all your faces here watching.